Alright, so far we've done slope and y-intercept from a graph. We worked on slope and y-intercept from a table. Our last thing we're going to work on is slope and y-intercept from an equation. So looking at the tab that says slope from an equation, we're going to start with that. Remember, slope-intercept form for any linear function is y equals mx plus b. M represents the slope. It's the number that is being multiplied by x. And our b value will be our y-intercept. So notice, though, that these have to say y equals. We're going to work on that today, making sure that our equations have been solved for y. Then we can identify our slope and our y-intercept. Okay, before you can find your slope and y-intercept, you have to make sure the equation is in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. Remember, when we're solving equations, we want to get the y by itself. You have to make sure that you use the distributive property if necessary. Then you add or subtract any constants or x terms, and then you're going to multiply or divide each term by the coefficient of y. These are the steps that we will follow when we are solving for y. We have to get the y values by themselves. Okay, turning over the tab that says slope from an equation, we have the equation 3x minus 9y equals negative 18. 3x minus 9y equals negative 18. In order to find the slope, we have to get this in the form y equals mx plus b. You have to write this in slope-intercept form. So we're going to draw a line down the middle of our equals. We need to get the y by itself. Our steps for solving, we're going to check if there is any distributive property. There is not in this equation because there is no set of parentheses that we can multiply by. Our next step is to add or subtract our constants or our x terms. We're trying to get y by itself, so we have to get rid of the 3x first. So on the left and right of my equation, to get rid of 3x, I'm going to have to subtract 3x because it is positive. So we subtract 3x from the left and 3x from the right. When we subtract 3x from both sides, 3x minus 3x will cancel out. We have negative 9y. The sign of the number stays with it. It was a negative 9 or a minus 9. You have to keep that. On the right side, we have a negative 18 and a negative 3x. From our equation, we need to put our negative 3x first. And remember that these cannot go together because they are not like terms. You have to write your x term down. You cannot do negative 18 minus 3. So by subtracting 3x, I'm getting closer to having y by itself. We've got negative 9y equals negative 3x minus 18. With the y now is negative 9, it's being multiplied by y. So we have to divide both sides of the equation by a negative 9. We're going to divide the left by negative 9 and the right by negative 9. On the left side of the equation, negative 9 and negative 9 cancel out. We end up with y equals, so we're closer to having y by itself. Now, when I divide two terms by negative 9, I've got to divide the negative 3x by negative 9 and the negative 18 by negative 9. So I'm going to split this up into two parts. I'm going to split it up into negative 3x divided by negative 9 and negative 18 divided by negative 9. When we do this, we can now simplify each part. Negative 3 over negative 9. Well, a negative over a negative is a positive, and 3 over 9 reduces to 1/3. Then we have our x term. So 1/3 x. After that, negative 18 divided by negative 9 is a positive 2. We were asked to identify the slope. Remember, the slope is the number that is being multiplied by x. So the slope of this equation is right here. Our slope is in front of our x term. It would be 1/3. So in order to find our slope, we had to make sure that our equation said y equals and it had our x term and our constant. When you solve for y, you have to distribute if there is any, then you get rid of your constant or your x term, and then you divide or multiply by the coefficient of y. Alright, underneath the tab, you're going to write this on your own paper. Here's our next example. I'll give you a minute to write it down. 5x minus 1/2 y equals 9. 5x minus 1/2 y equals 9. This does not say y equals. In order to find our slope, we have to have y equals mx plus b. So we're going to solve this equation for y. That means you have to get the y by itself. Draw your line down the middle. Now, 5x is with our y term. It's a positive 5x, so we're going to subtract 5x from both sides. We want to get rid of the x term so that we can solve for y. Our x's cancel out, 5x minus 5x. That means we have negative 1/2 y equals negative 5x and positive 9. They are not like terms, so we cannot combine them to get 4. We have to keep them separate, negative 5x plus 9. Now, we have a negative 1/2 y on the left. We need to get y by itself. To get rid of a negative fraction coefficient, to get rid of those fractions, we have to flip and multiply. So we're going to take the left and we're going to multiply by negative 2 over 1. We're going to take everything on the right and we're going to multiply by negative 2 over 1. Remember that negative 2 over 1 is just negative 2, so these cancel out and we have y equals, I have to multiply everything on the left by negative 2 over 1. So this is being multiplied by my x term and my constant. I have to distribute it to both. Negative 2 over 1 times negative 5 is a positive 10. So negative 2 over 1 times negative 5 is positive 10. And then a negative 2 over 1 times a positive 9 is a negative 18. Now, our slope is what we're trying to find. Slope is the value in front of x. That means in this case, our slope is a positive 10. So our value for our slope is 10. We had to get the y value by itself in order to find the slope. Alright, turning over the tab that says y-intercept from an equation. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So we have to get the y by itself in order to find this. Now we're looking for the y-intercept. That's the term that is being added or subtracted when it says y equals. To solve this, we have to draw our line down the middle. We need to get y by itself. Our goal when we write this in slope-intercept form is to have y by itself. In order to do that, we have to get rid of 8x on the left. We're going to subtract 8x from both sides because it's a positive 8. So subtract 8x from the left and the right. That gives us 2y equals, because 8x minus 8x cancels out. On the other side, we have negative 8x and we have positive 10. They are not like terms. We have to write them separately. Negative 8x and positive 10. To solve for y, we need to divide both sides by 2 because it is being multiplied by 2. And we divide the entire other side by 2. Our 2's cancel out and we get y equals. Now, when we divide the other side by 2, we have to divide both terms. So we take negative 8x divided by 2 and positive 10 divided by 2. You have to divide each term by 2. We get y equals negative 8 divided by positive 2 is a negative 4x, and then 10 divided by 2 is a positive 5. Now, to answer this, we are looking for our y-intercept. That's the number that's being added or subtracted from x when y is by itself. So in this case, our y-intercept equals a positive 5. That means when we graph this later, 5 is going to be our beginning on our y-axis. So our y-intercept is a positive 5. Alright, last example, if you'll write this on the paper underneath your tab, y-intercept from an equation, this is going to be our most challenging one. We have 2 parentheses 3 plus y, close parentheses, equals 4x minus 5. You'll notice we now have the distributive property. We are trying to make this say y equals mx plus b. We want to find the y by itself. So y equals mx plus b. We have 2 times 3. We're going to draw our arrow. Yes, you do need to draw your arrow. 2 times 3 is 6. And then 2 times y is a positive 2y. This equals 4x minus 5. Now, we are trying to get the y by itself. We needed to distribute first to get rid of our parentheses. Split your equation into 2 parts. Solving for y means we need to get rid of our constant or our x term first. So you'll notice on the left side of the equation we have 6 plus 2y. We have to get rid of the 6 first. We're going to subtract 6 from the left and the right. When we subtract 6 from the right, it has to go underneath our constant, negative 5. So solving this, 6 minus 6 cancels out. We get 2y equals 4x, and then a negative 5 minus 6 is negative 11. We are almost done. We have one more step to get y by itself. We have to multiply or divide by the coefficient of y. In this problem, 2 is being multiplied by y. It was positive, so 2 times y, we're going to divide both sides by 2. When we divide the left and the right by 2, we're going to draw our line underneath both. 2 divided by 2 cancels out. We get y equals, now both terms have to be divided by 2, so 4x divided by 2 and minus 11 divided by 2. We end up with y equals 4 divided by 2 is 2, so 4x divided by 2 is 2x. And then 11 divided by 2 is 5.5, so negative or minus 5.5. Y equals 2x minus 5.5. That means our y-intercept, our value for b, is a negative 5.5. This would cross the y-axis at negative 5.5. Okay, I know this was a lot of information when we are solving for y. If you have questions, make sure you come prepared with them to class tomorrow. Solving for y means you have to get the y by itself, and we do that so we can find our value for our slope and our value for our y-intercept. This is going to help us graph this later on this week.